All right, hey twos, what's going on? JD 1533 here, and I'm going to share with you a little job that I'm going to do. We're going to make some gaskets for a water pump for a steam tractor, an old Case brand steam tractor made in 1910 up at the museum up at Jacktown. And next weekend's going to be kind of a maintenance work weekend. The July show was canceled because of the virus. And so we still need to get a boiler inspection and all that done and some prep work. So hopefully it'll be running in October for that show. So these gaskets, you put them in, you clamp them down, they run for a show, then they open up the end caps on the mechanical water pump, and after they've been compressed and used, they don't seal again. So you can't go to the store and buy these. So I make them. And at first, I used to make them like this. Just trace them out and, you know, freehand with a blade. I don't know if you can see this, but it's pretty wonky. These worked. You know, these worked fine, but they're not exactly pretty, but they did the job. I kept them in my toolbox. And then later, I found some punches up in the museum shop there and cut these out a little tighter and used punches. Much nicer holes. Here's another one. And that kind of prompted me to invest in a set of punches. This was like $5 or $10. And I like to make a lot of my own gaskets. This makes life a lot easier. We've got standard sizes, 1/8 up to 3/4. I think there's 12 of these. And for these holes right here, I find 5/16 is a good size. And the next size up is 3/8, which is a little bit too big. So we're going to be using the 5/16 size. Now here's our gasket material made by Federal Mogul Corporation, made in the USA. And this is almost an exact copy of the tractor gasket, the little suggested gasket thing here. What we're going to do is flip it over, and what I want to do is take this scrap of gasket material, and I'm going to lay 4 of these out, and I'm trying to get 4. We only need 2, but I'm going to try to make 4 since we're here anyway. And I know if I lay these out, I can just barely get it. You can use a Sharpie to trace these out, or I decided I'm going to use a pencil in case I want to move something around and erase it. After that, I think we'll take it outside, use some natural light, and I'll punch the holes first. And the reason why I'm going to do that first, before cutting them out, is if you take this donut shape and make this first and then punch the holes, you see, if you're going to take that punch and punch through the material here, you might pull this edge here. See, there's not much distance there. And if you pinch that and pull it, you'll crack it or tear it, and this won't seal. So if you have all this area here around it and you punch it, it gives it that strength so it doesn't want to kind of crinkle. So after I have all these holes punched, then for the inside, I'll carefully go around with this razor. And then for the outside, I'll use these craft scissors and carefully go around and cut these out. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a good plan. It's going to work out great. Should have 4 gaskets when we're done. So let's get to it. All right, trace this stuff out, and you can barely see it because I used a pencil on this gasket material. It's not really prominent. I could use the Sharpie and go over it, or a pen, but it's going to make a wider line. And in places like right here, we barely had enough room to fit 4 gaskets. My original plan with this piece was to just get the 2 I need and 1 spare, but I think we can get 4 out of it, and we are, it looks like. So that's a good thing. The mechanical water pump on the Case steam tractor It's basically a cylinder with a piston in it, and it has end caps, and these seal the end caps on either end. So you can get in there, inspect it, do whatever you have to do. It pumps water from the tank, the water tank, back into the water tank. But there's a connection to the check valve on the boiler. In between the return line back to the tank and the connection that goes to the boiler check valve, there's a valve you can open or close. And depending on how far it's closed, it builds up resistance between the pump and returning the water back to the tank. And that resistance overcomes the check valve in the boiler, so you can have a slow rate of feed or crank it down farther and have a heavier rate of feed, even all the way. So that pump is just, every stroke is pumping water into the boiler. The other way of getting water in the boiler is the steam injector, and that works by taking steam through venturis, which causes the velocity to increase. It picks up the water, and through the laws of physics, fires that water into the boiler against the boiler pressure at the check valve, using its own boiler pressure, which I think is pretty neat. But yeah, the feed water pump, it works great as long as the flywheel's spinning. When the tractor's just sitting there idle, obviously you need the injector to get water into it. But that's a lot to talk about for another time. We're just making gaskets today. So next step, we're going to go outside and punch these out. Yeah, everybody, I'm pretty happy. These things came out, I would say, halfway decent, pretty good. They're not machine punched, they're handmade, little arts and crafts. Whether backside or front side, they don't look too bad. They're going to do the job. If the holes are a little bit too tight, we can hog them out a little bigger, or go up to the 3/8 punch, which I think might be a little bit too big, but I'll have that stuff there to modify it if necessary. One thing I forgot to mention, these punches, it's a cheap set. They're some kind of steel, some kind of stainless steel. I don't know how good the stainless steel is, but I accidentally left them in a pretty damp environment and there's no rust. So I'm assuming it's halfway decent stainless steel. So, I mean, you can use any hammer you want on a cheap set of punches, but I just chose to use the brass hammer because I know for a fact brass is not as hard as these, and I want to keep these nice as I can. Even though they were cheap, I want to keep them around for a while, and I love playing with this brass hammer. It cost me $1, you know, at the engine show, and it's ugly. Nobody wanted it, but it's a brass hammer, so it's not there to be pretty, it's there to do the job. And this is like way old. Who knows how old this thing is. Yeah, a little freehand arts and crafts with our trusty razor blade. Put it there on the time lapse. Otherwise, it's kind of like watching paint dry. This whole video might be like watching paint dry to some people, so hopefully if you were bored, you skip past it. But, you know, I do a lot of projects and I don't film it because I just want to get it done. And when I'm done, I kind of think I should have filmed it. Maybe somebody would enjoy it and get something out of it. So I decided to film this because hopefully I can film next Saturday, on the maintenance Saturday, working on the old steam tractor, and maybe show you where these go and show you what I'm doing here, hopefully, and maybe some assorted other things. We'll see. So until next time, you know what to do. Take care, be safe. JD1533 saying, see you later.